There are moments in the long pilgrimage of the soul when everything seems to collapse into silence, when prayers sound like whispers cast into an empty canyon, and faith feels like walking barefoot across a frozen wasteland. It is in such hours that heaven seems furthest away. Yet, paradoxically, it is then that heaven is speaking your name the loudest. The temptation to give up is not born in the absence of purpose, but in the nearness of breakthrough. For every trembling soul standing on the edge of surrender, God whispers, "Don't give up now. Your name is being mentioned in heaven." There is a divine council where your perseverance is known, where the angels speak of your endurance, where your trials are not forgotten but treasured as testimony. The silence you fear is not abandonment but orchestration. Like a seed buried beneath the soil, you are unseen not because you are lost, but because something sacred is taking root beneath the surface. Your name has been spoken by lips divine, and though the earth has yet to echo it, heaven already celebrates it. There are seasons when God hides you, so he can reveal you rightly, when he slows you down so that your destiny may catch up to you. Do not mistake delay for denial, nor obscurity for insignificance. Heaven moves in patterns unseen by mortal timing. The waiting that aches within you is the space where God writes his finest promises. When you think you are forgotten, you are being discussed in places you cannot yet imagine. Angels are aligning assignments around your name. Favor is being arranged in silence. What you call waiting, heaven calls preparation. What you see as stillness, heaven sees as strategy. You must understand. The sound of your endurance has reached the throne. Every tear, every breath, every prayer uttered in pain has been collected in heaven's record. There is nothing wasted in your suffering, no battle unseen, no faith uncounted. God has seen you standing in the storm, refusing to curse his name, and that steadfastness has become your offering. When he says, "Your name is being mentioned in heaven," it is not a poetic phrase. It is a declaration that the unseen realm has taken notice of you. The same God who spoke of Job in the courts of heaven is speaking of you. The same angels who strengthened Christ in Gethsemane are dispatched to strengthen you now. You are not on the outskirts of divine thought. You are the subject of it. The darkness that presses you is not a tomb, but a womb. What feels like an ending is the trembling of birth. The enemy's fiercest attack is proof that your future has already been announced. God has whispered your name into the corridors of heaven, and the response of darkness has been rage. Yet the victory is already written. Heaven has not forgotten the one who wrestles in the night. Heaven crowns the one who refuses to let go. You must see beyond this hour, for every unseen moment of perseverance builds eternal weight. The heavens know your struggle, and the Lord of all creation calls you by name, not by failure. So when your hands grow weary, remember that they are noticed. When your heart grows faint, remember that your endurance is being celebrated beyond the stars. The King himself speaks your name among angels, saying, "This one has not turned away. Do not give up now, for the story is not over. The page you are living may be dark, but the chapter is turning. You have been hidden not to be forgotten, but to be announced in divine timing." Heaven's mention of your name is the first sign that your season of obscurity is nearing its end. And though the world may not yet know it, heaven already does. Your name is written in light where no darkness can erase it, and soon what heaven has whispered in secret will be revealed in glory. The weight of waiting is not punishment but preparation. Heaven matures what it plans to reveal. We often mistake stillness for stagnation, and delay for divine displeasure, yet the truth is far more mysterious and tender. When God withholds movement, it is not because he has turned away, but because he is forming something within you that cannot yet survive exposure. Every soul that will bear the fragrance of heaven must first endure the crushing of time. Waiting is the furnace of faith, where impatience is melted down and trust is forged into something unbreakable. The human heart longs for acceleration. We wish to run before we can walk, to harvest before the seed has died. But heaven moves by seasons, not seconds. God knows the precise temperature at which your purpose ripens. To rush divine timing is to step outside of grace and into exhaustion. That is why God sometimes lets the promise linger, so that you may grow strong enough to carry it when it comes. The promise is never denied, only delayed until the heart is ready to host it. Do not despise the silence. It is the sound of heaven's craftsmanship. Like a master sculptor, God chisels in secret places, shaping what the world will one day behold. The waiting room of heaven is not empty. It is filled with angels arranging the scene for your arrival. What seems like inactivity is actually divine choreography, aligning people, places, and moments that must meet at the appointed hour. You may not see the clock of eternity, but it ticks with perfect precision. Every detour, every closed door, every unanswered prayer has been allowed to temper your faith until it gleams like refined gold. You see, there is no blessing worth having that comes untested. The anointing that changes lives is not poured out on the unprepared. That is why you are hidden for a season. Why doors do not open at your command. Because the one who will walk through them must first become the person who can remain standing once they do. The waiting, painful though it is, builds the muscle of endurance that destiny demands. Even creation understands this rhythm. The tree does not curse the winter, for it knows that the roots grow deepest when the surface seems barren. So too must you learn to find beauty in delay, for heaven delays only to deliver with precision. There are promises that must mature like wine. If opened too early, they lose their fragrance. And so God allows time to do its holy work, stretching your patience, refining your desires, and teaching you to love Him more than His gifts. The blessing that comes too soon can destroy the soul that is not yet anchored in humility. But the blessing that arrives on time becomes a throne upon which grace can rest. Understand this: waiting is not empty. Every day that feels wasted is written in heaven's record as faithfulness. Every sigh, every whisper of, "Lord, I still believe," is counted as worship. Heaven does not measure your progress by speed but by surrender. You are not falling behind, you are being aligned. You are not forgotten, you are being formed. The silence you fear is the sound of heaven building something eternal within you. If you could see what is being constructed behind the veil, you would not despise a single moment of delay. God is maturing the promise and maturing you to meet it. Two works that must happen in perfect harmony. And when the day finally comes, when what heaven whispered becomes visible on earth, you will look back and understand that every unanswered prayer was a doorway into greater wisdom. The waiting will make sense, because you will see that God's "not yet" was never a rejection. It was mercy preserving you for your appointed time. Heaven never wastes a season. It ripens the soul until it glows with readiness. The divine conversation about you is proof that you are still part of God's unfolding narrative. There is a mysterious comfort in knowing that heaven does not forget names. When the noise of life fades, when people overlook you, and when the doors you knocked upon remain unanswered, there is a conversation happening in a realm unseen, where your name is spoken with purpose and tenderness. You are not a bystander in God's grand design. You are a living sentence in His eternal story. Heaven is not silent about you. The divine mind has not set you aside. There is a meeting beyond time, where angels, purpose, and providence intertwine, discussing how to align your life with the next chapter of grace. Every hardship you face, every temptation resisted, every prayer whispered in secret adds another line to your sacred script. You must understand, when God mentions your name, it is not casual speech, it is creative power. The same voice that said, "Let there be light," is the voice that now says, "Let this one rise." Heaven does not speak in vain. The mention of your name in divine realms is the signal that things are shifting in unseen dimensions. You may not feel movement yet, but eternity is stirring around you. What feels like coincidence is often the echo of that conversation breaking into time. There are no accidents in a life that heaven speaks of. When God discusses you, it is to release assignments, to summon provision, to instruct angels on your behalf. You are not forgotten, you are remembered in divine strategy. Even when you sit in silence wondering if your life still matters, the author of all existence holds your chapter in his hands. Every name mentioned in heaven is part of a plan that stretches beyond mortality, and your name is among them. Think of it before you were formed. Heaven spoke your name. Before your first breath, purpose had already been attached to your existence. You are not wandering aimlessly. You are walking through paragraphs already written by divine intention. The conversation in heaven is not about your failure, but your formation. God does not gossip about your weakness. He declares your potential. He speaks of you not as you are, but as you shall become when grace completes its work. You are being discussed as a vessel of endurance, a bearer of testimony, a soul whose trials will one day strengthen others. Every time you resist despair, heaven records it as faith. Every time you choose hope over fear, your story expands with new light. The divine narrative continues to unfold, and you remain one of its living verses. Even now, angels rehearse your next steps, aligning opportunities that will meet you at the exact intersection of obedience and timing. The conversation about you is not over, because your purpose is not complete. The enemy may whisper that you have been disqualified, but heaven contradicts that lie with grace. For in the courts of God, mercy speaks louder than accusation. Your story is not erased by failure. It is rewritten by redemption. You are a work in progress, but progress in the hands of eternity is victory in motion. When God speaks your name, He speaks it into light, into restoration, into destiny. You are not forgotten dust in the wind. You are divine poetry still being recited in heaven's hall. Remember this. When the Lord speaks of you, creation listens. Winds shift, hearts change, pathways open, and time itself bends to accommodate His will. The divine conversation is not a distant myth, it is the invisible current guiding your visible steps. You are being remembered, refined, and reintroduced in God's perfect hour. What you feel as waiting is heaven writing your next line. What you see as silence is the pause before your name is spoken again. This time with command, this time with promise, this time with fulfillment. The author has not closed your book. Your name is still being read in heaven, and as long as heaven speaks it, your story cannot end. Faith is not proven in noise but in silence. Where God watches, who still believes without applause. There is a sacred solitude in the journey of faith that few are willing to embrace. We all love the moments when prayers are answered instantly, when signs appear like stars lighting up the night sky, when miracles arrive dressed in clarity. But there is another kind of faith, the kind that survives the absence of signs, the kind that walks through shadow and still whispers, "He is good." True faith is not forged in comfort but in quiet. It is not confirmed by applause but by endurance. The heavens sometimes go silent, not because God has left, but because He is testing whether you love Him for His presence or for His performance. There are hours when you will stand in the middle of unanswered questions, holding nothing but the memory of His voice. And that will have to be enough. This is the place where faith graduates from feeling to conviction. When you no longer sense Him, yet you still obey. When you no longer hear Him, yet you still trust. That is when heaven takes notice. God hides Himself not to punish you, but to purify your love. He withdraws the sensation of His nearness so that your spirit may grow strong enough to walk without sight. Every saint, every prophet, every soul ever refined by eternity has walked through this valley of divine silence. The silence is not the absence of God, but the presence of His trust. It means He believes you can still believe without evidence. Think of the night before dawn. It is always the darkest just before the sun rises. That is how heaven works. It conceals the next glory behind a veil of quiet, to see if your heart can praise while the promise is still hidden. This is the secret language of the kingdom. Silence is not neglect. It is preparation for revelation. When heaven seems mute, it is often writing a deeper message in the hidden chambers of your soul. Faith that only sings in sunlight will never understand the poetry of stars. The Father looks for those who can love Him in the dark, who can worship without witness, who can wait without signs. Such faith shakes the corridors of heaven. For though men celebrate visible victories, God delights in invisible loyalty. It is easy to trust when the sea parts and the manna falls, but it is divine to trust when the sky is brass and the wind is still. The silence of God is the crucible of faith. There you learn to lean not on emotion, but on eternal truth. You begin to discover that his silence is not rejection, but refinement. It strips you of spiritual vanity and teaches you the melody of stillness. When applause fades, when recognition disappears, when no one sees the quiet obedience that costs you everything, that is when heaven records your faithfulness. Angels marvel at souls who keep believing when there is nothing left to hold but hope itself. And it is in such souls that God plants his deepest mysteries. You may think he is distant, but he is watching with the tenderness of a gardener observing the first fragile bloom in winter. Faith grown in silence is faith that cannot be uprooted. The noise of blessing can be imitated, the stillness of trust cannot. It is the silence that makes saints, the waiting that makes witnesses. So when you find yourself in that hush, when heaven does not reply and earth offers no answer, know this: you are standing in sacred territory. God is not ignoring you. He is admiring your endurance. You are showing heaven what love without condition looks like. And though you hear nothing, you are being heard. Though you see no movement, heaven is leaning in closer. The silence is the sound of your faith echoing through eternity, and God is listening to every heartbeat of belief that refuses to die in the dark. Every unseen prayer becomes the architecture of future blessings. Nothing spoken in faith is ever lost in the corridors of eternity. The words you whispered through tears, the petitions you voiced when no one was there to hear, the quiet groanings of a weary soul, all of them have weight in heaven. There is not a single syllable that falls unheard before the throne of God. Every prayer, even the broken one that never found the right words, is gathered like incense into golden bowls of remembrance. You may think that heaven is silent, but it is storing. You may think your prayers are buried, but they are being built into something. God is not an absent listener. He is an architect. Every time you pray, he adds another stone to the foundation of a promise being constructed in the unseen. Prayer is not wasted breath. It is eternal blueprint. While you cry for change, heaven crafts the structure that will carry that change. There are seasons when it feels as if your prayers hit the ceiling and fall back into your lap, but in truth, they have already passed through the veil and into the hands of a God who works in silence. You may not see the walls rise yet, but the foundation is deepening. The more you pray, the stronger it becomes. The waiting you endure is not neglect, it is construction time. God cannot rush what must be built to last. There are prayers that require the alignment of nations, the rearranging of hearts, the ripening of destiny. Such things cannot be handed to you half-formed. So he waits. And while he waits, he works. He shapes your character to fit the blessing he is designing. For what good is a palace if the inhabitant's soul is too small to live within it? Every delay in answered prayer is mercy protecting you from receiving what you are not yet ready to carry. You are not being ignored, you are being enlarged. There are prayers whose answers require time, not because God is slow, but because eternity moves with precision, not haste. He sees where the road must turn, where the right people must meet you, where the hidden provision must intersect your need. Each prayer you have sown has marked a point on that divine map, and one by one, as time unfolds, you will see those points light up like stars forming constellations of grace. Then you will realize, none of it was wasted. The long nights of crying, the whispered pleas in loneliness, the sighs uttered when you had no strength to speak, they were all bricks in the cathedral of your destiny. God never discards tears, he recycles them into rain. And that rain will fall one day upon the very ground where you once wept, bringing forth a harvest beyond imagination. The unseen prayers become seen blessings when the time is full. Heaven does not forget, it only finishes. And while you wait, your prayers are working, softening hearts, moving obstacles, bending circumstances toward your promise. Sometimes God answers not by removing the storm, but by building within you a strength that outlasts it. That too is an answer. That too is architecture. The hand of God is constructing something that will stand when fleeting comforts fall. And when that moment comes, when the long-awaited answer finally appears, you will feel a deep and quiet knowing this is what all the waiting was for. You will see how the invisible became visible, how the whisper became a wall, how the prayer became provision. You will marvel at how perfect the timing was. Not late, not early, but right on the hinge of heaven's clock. So never stop praying, even when the world calls it foolish. Every word builds, every tear waters, every silence shapes. You are not speaking into emptiness. You are speaking into eternity's design. And eternity is listening, still working, still weaving, still remembering your name. The mentioning of your name in heaven is not the end of your struggle, but the beginning of your unveiling. Many believe that when God begins to speak their name, the battle should end, but in truth, it is often then that the battle shifts into its most sacred stage. The moment heaven acknowledges you, hell notices too. The mention of your name in divine circles awakens both favor and resistance, for every unveiling attracts both light and shadow. When heaven decides that your season of hiddenness is ending, the pressure around you intensifies. The furnace grows hotter not because you are forgotten, but because you are about to be refined into visibility. This is the paradox of divine promotion. Before God brings you out, He burns away everything in you that cannot go with you. The unveiling is never gentle. It is the holy tearing away of comfort, the dismantling of what once defined you, the exposure of what was never meant to last. Heaven does not reveal half-formed vessels, so God will allow you to be pressed, pruned, and purified until the weight of glory can safely rest upon your life. The struggle, though painful, is proof that your unveiling is near. Just as gold screams in the fire before it shines in the crown, so must your soul endure the heat before it can carry the light. The mentioning of your name in heaven is an announcement that purpose has reached maturity. And with that announcement comes a divine acceleration of testing. You are not being punished. You are being prepared for visibility. The world will soon see what heaven has been whispering all along. But before that unveiling comes, God must ensure that your heart can bear the stage without losing its reverence. The greater the unveiling, the deeper the humility required to sustain it. Many are called, but only those who have endured the silent season with steadfast hearts are chosen to stand in the open light. So if life feels like it is breaking you just when you thought it should bless you, know this: the breaking is the blessing in disguise. God is removing what cannot survive exposure. He is teaching you to depend on Him alone, so that when your name is spoken before men, your heart will still bow before heaven. The unveiling is not about fame, it is about fulfillment. It is heaven revealing its craftsmanship to the world. It is the Father saying, "Look what grace has formed." You are being unveiled not as a trophy of your endurance, but as a testimony of His faithfulness. Yet the unveiling carries responsibility. Once you step into visibility, you must reflect the light, not compete with it. You will be called to serve when others seek to shine, to love when others seek applause. The mentioning of your name is the divine call to become what you were always meant to be. Not a seeker of attention, but a steward of glory. And as your name echoes through the unseen realm, angels are being dispatched, doors are being unlocked, and opportunities are aligning. Yet amid the excitement of what's to come, you must not forget what brought you here. The hidden tears, the quiet faith, the sacred endurance. Those unseen moments are the soil from which this unveiling grows. So when heaven says your name, do not expect rest. Expect responsibility. Expect purpose to find you in ways you never imagined. Expect your pain to transform into ministry. Expect the very areas where you once bled to become the places where others are healed. That is the essence of divine unveiling. God turns your wounds into windows for His light. He makes your scars speak of redemption, Your trials testify of his timing. The mentioning of your name means your season of being hidden was not wasted. It was incubation. And now that heaven has spoken, the earth will respond. You will not have to chase the platform will be positioned beneath your obedience. The unveiling is not sudden. It is the slow dawning of destiny. The darkness that once covered you will lift, and all that you have become in the silence will begin to shine. Do not fear this unveiling, even though it may stretch you. For when heaven calls your name, it does not call you to destruction. It calls you to destiny. The struggle may continue, but this time it is a struggle wrapped in promise. The same heaven that once whispered your name in secret is now preparing to declare it in the open. And when it does, the world will see not you, but the glory of the one who never stopped speaking your name.